Despite their recent winning, the Chicago Bulls still are on pace to win 36 to 37 games this season. On today's episode, we're going to talk about where exactly do the Bulls sit despite their recent winning and what the future may look like for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are still stuck in mediocrity, and I think a lot of people need to wake up to the reality of the Chicago Bulls. It's going to be a fun season, but not a lot of wins this season. We're going to look at that. Plus, the Warriors are still reportedly looking into Nikola Vucevic trades, and we got an update on Ayo Dosunmu's injury. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Chicago Bulls lost yesterday to the Indiana Pacers in an ugly loss in which they were down by over 30 points, as much as 34 points at one point in the game. And, the Bulls had some wins over the Spurs. They had a win over the Knicks. And this team continues to just be, by definition, middle of the pack. When you look at it, I know a lot of Bulls fans make note that the Bulls are only, 2 games right now, 2.5 games out of the 6th seed. But, unfortunately, the Bulls are also only 1 game out of being out of the play-in at the 11th seed. And one of the things that I've told you guys before that kind of always ends up working out, right? Now, it can change, but that point differential is always something that ends up kind of evening out, especially in the Eastern Conference. The Chicago Bulls are in one of the bottom 8 teams in the league as far as point differential. So, while their record right now, they're 10th in the Eastern Conference, they're 8th overall, or bottom 8 overall in the league of point differential. They have no chance of catching up to teams like the Brooklyn Nets, the Charlotte Hornets, the Toronto Raptors, the Washington Wizards, the Pelicans, or the Jazz as far as in the lottery odds, or the Portland Trailblazers for that matter. But for the people that say and look at this team and say, well, this team has already won too many games to keep their pick, really not the case, right? And so it's the back and forth nature of the Bulls, and that's going to leave them in a place, of course, stay towards the middle. Now, I talked about it a little bit on yesterday's episode after the game, is that the Bulls are still going to rely on some luck, right? Either way, if they make the play-in, they still can theoretically keep their pick. Right now, via the odds, the Chicago Bulls have the 10th best odds to land the number 1 overall pick, which means that their pick is still in the bottom 10 as of right now. If they get some lottery luck, they can move up to the top 4. They have a 14% chance to move into the top 4 of the lottery. But if the Bulls also can get lucky as far as no teams below them jumping them in the lottery, then they could still keep their top 10 pick. And that may be, again, what this front office is willing to bet on. They may be willing to say, hey, we're going to let this thing play out. If we make the play-in, great. If we make it out if we get eliminated from the play-in, especially in the first game, we still have a really good chance to keep our pick. Which they have they have a chance. I wouldn't call it a really good chance. Misspoke on my part, right? But the thing that has plagued this Bulls team all season long is you got to look at it, right? You had back-to-back wins over the New York Knicks and Spurs. Both teams over 500. Both teams slated to be playoff teams, right? Then you also got to pair that, though, with the fact you have an 18-point loss to the 6-29 Washington Wizards, a 16-point loss to the Trailblazers where you were losing by as much as 34. Let's go back to the earlier in the season. That's why it's the same story for the Chicago Bulls, right? It does not change. When you look at the end of October, the Chicago Bulls beat Memphis Grizzlies, in which that was a comeback victory, if I'm not mistaken, and we beat the Orlando Magic, right? At that point in time, we then went to 3-2, right? And then you look at those 2 teams right now. They are combined 46 of 29. They are some of the best teams in their respective conferences. I think both the Orlando Magic are 4th in the East, and the Memphis Grizzlies are 3rd in the West, right? But then, after those 2 wins, the Bulls go on to lose the next 4 games, 2 losses coming against the Brooklyn Nets and Utah Jazz, which have a combined record of 22-50 as of right now, right? The Bulls are inconsistent, and thus through being inconsistent, you're going to find yourself where the Bulls are in the middle. That just is what it is. And so while, a lot of, some Bulls fans want to look at the Bulls, recent win streak or whatever that's happened, and the Bulls do hold, since Thanksgiving, the Bulls actually hold a winning record, right? But it still has left us in the same spot where we're still 3 games below 500. We're still a team that looks wildly inconsistent. We still have some injuries, right? We still have Ayo Dosunmu out. We'll see when he comes back what this look different and how much it looks different for the Chicago Bulls, right? But mediocrity, it keeps being the storyline of the Chicago Bulls. And until this front office is tired of sitting in the middle, this is just what we have to look forward to, right? When you look at it as well, let's go into this season. The Bulls are the only team in the NBA to not have a win streak of more than 4 games, but also not having a losing streak of 4 games or more. Again, everything that you look at with this team leaves us to be what? Stuck right in the middle. That's just where the Bulls are. And so, like we've always talked about with this team, the question is, where does getting in the middle, how do the Bulls get out of the middle, right? That's where you see some team that some of course fans that have their preference. Hey, the Bulls keep the pick. Tanking is not in the question. At this point, we got to stop thinking that tanking is going to be what gets us out the middle. Now, we can still keep our pick and stay in the middle. There is a chance of that. It just, you don't have the best odds. Let's look at it. Even throughout the Bulls having this recent streak where they've been winning more games than losing, we are still 17th in the league in net rating at negative 2.1. We're 21st in the league in offensive rating. Despite our offense talking about the threes we take, the pace we take, we're still a bottom tier team as far as offensive rating. 21st in the NBA. Now, our defense over the last 5 games has actually been better. We're 15th in the league in defensive rating over the last 5 games. Cool. True shooting percentage, 56%, 19th in the NBA. Effective field goal shooting percentage, 53%, 17th in the NBA. What's that? Middle of the pack. Assist percentage, 14% assist percentage in the NBA over the last 5 games. Middle of the pack. We're middle of the pack rebounding team at 49.4%, 17th in the NBA. Everything that you look at the Chicago Bulls, statistically, we are in the middle or the bottom. That's it. That's it. The last 10 games, a net rating of negative 4.9, 21st in the NBA. Offensive rating, 22nd in the NBA. Defensive rating, 20th in the NBA. True shooting percentage, 23rd in the NBA. Effective field goal shooting percentage, 18th in the NBA over the last 10 games. Assist percentage, 10th. All right, cool. Rebound percentage, 20th. Like, this team is so mediocre that it defies logic that everything that we do is right in the middle. But yet, we aren't predicted to finish with a 50% win percentage. That's how bad this thing is right now for this team. It's not good. It's not good. And I've said it multiple times before, and I know Bulls fans don't really like to hear it because we want to be in the positive of our team, and I understand that, right? I understand that. But you got to be realistic about where this team is right now. Overall, the Bulls are negative 132 on the season. 132 on the season. We have a net negative rating of negative 3. Our offensive rating 113th in the NBA overall on the course of this season. And that is what this front office is similarly okay with, right? And that is one of the biggest problems here. And again, either way, the Bulls are looking for luck, right? You're either hoping that somebody's going to want to come here. You're hoping that a player is going to develop crazily, right, and end up turning into something. Modest Vucevic, he's Modest Vucevic. You are our last hope. Or you're hoping that you're going to get lucky eventually in a draft and draft a star. Not even necessarily saying 2025, but eventually the Bulls are hoping that they're going to get somebody in a draft that's going to help turn this thing around. Right? And it's not by the performances of the players. Let's be clear. Zach LaVine is on a stretch of scoring over 30 points in a game, over 60% shooting from the field. Zach LaVine is on an absolute tear. Nikola Vucevic has come back down to earth a little bit. His shooting splits are getting kind of more normalizing for him, but he's still getting a double-double, right? But all these things are coming together. And this is why I said this earlier in the season, right? When I said things like, I just don't know how much this Bulls team can realistically improve. It's because that you've gotten performances. You've gotten really good performances. out of your players. Kobe started off the season hot. He's had that disappointing long stretch there. He's been much better as of late, right? But still, what like how much more do you expect from Kobe? It is what it is. Zach LaVine's on an absolute heater right now, right? Our bench production is mid. And so it is what it is there. Jalen Smith hasn't necessarily, since he returned from injury, done some of the things that he did before, but it is what it is there. This team is just one of those teams that it's going to be internally frustrating. That's what's going to happen here. Internal frustration with the Chicago Bulls team because, unfortunately, this team just doesn't have it. And we also got to talk, listen, the coaching mistakes by Billy Donovan yesterday, right? I get it that Billy Donovan said that this is not a team that's tanking, and I believe that, right? I firmly believe that. I think that's also what we're seeing with the eye test. But the questionable decisions that Billy Donovan made, Chris Duarte playing in the first half, what's that, right? What's that? What is that, right? Sitting Kobe White down for almost 3 minutes when he actually started getting back into rhythm in this game. What was that? Nikola Vucevic getting no shots in the second half of the game despite being in the top 5 of minutes played in the second half. He was the only player in that top 5 to not take at least 3 shots. What is that? Right? So it's just, again, the same old questions with the same old squad with the same old results. This team is internally destined to be in the middle. And it's really hard to improve when you're just in that middle. And it's going to be exciting at times. I always want to give this team credit. They're going to play with some heart. They're going to beat some teams that we don't think they're going to beat coming in. But unfortunately, they're going to lose to some teams that we think coming into the game we're going to look like, what are we doing? That's why when everybody keeps talking about this stretch that we have of teams below 500, do you trust the Bulls to play at a certain level to where they even beat those teams that they're supposed to beat consistently? I don't, because I've been a Bulls fan my whole life. And over the last decade, they've never done that consistently, right? Now, I hope that they can, because if they do, it can help pick some things. It can help choose some direction on some things. But I'll tell you what, this is tough, and it's going to remain tough until we get a little bit more aggressive about what we want to be and what we want to do as a franchise. And that's still something that plagues this team every single day, with every single decision, with every single lack of execution, bit of execution, whatever you want to look at it with. This team is stuck internally in the middle. And they better be right on one of these players. They better be right on Manas Bucelis. They better be right in whoever they draft in 2026. They better be right whoever they draft in 2027. Because I tell you what, the Bulls have never been a free agent destination for real, right? And I don't see that all of a sudden changing for a team that's stuck in the middle. Now, maybe the Bulls can convince somebody. Maybe the Bulls can do something that's unexpected. Anything can happen at any point in time. That's something I really honestly believe, right? But at the same time, at some point, you just got to believe when people tell you who they are, and what the Bulls continue to tell us who they are, is they're mid. They're stuck in the middle. And we'll see what happens outside of that. Now, one of the things as well with this team is that, and again, usually with rumors that just keep popping up, I tend to say, where there's smoke, there's some fire, right? Nikola Vucevic has continued to pop up as one of the favorites by the Golden State Warriors to land, right? This one comes from Mark J. Spears. He says this: I'm hearing that the Warriors literally want to go bigger than Jimmy Butler. And what I mean is that they are one of the most undersized teams in the league. So they're trying to get a big guy to go alongside Draymond Green. Today, he said that on NBA Today. He says, so people on their list include Nikola Vucevic, who's probably been maybe their top guy on that list. He can shoot threes. He can play on the inside. He makes $20 million as opposed to $48 million Jimmy makes. Keep an eye on guys like Walker Kessler, John Collins of the Utah Jazz, and Jonas Valanciunas of the Wizards. So, Nikola Vucevic, potentially a top target by the Golden State Warriors. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say this. I'm going to leave it this. I'm going to be on that. I believe it when I see it. And that's just what it is now at this point. There was so much talk around Zach LaVine and potentially going to Denver. Now, it seems like those talks fell apart, right? Because of the Bulls' reluctance to take on Zeke Naji. Cool, right? But as I said before, if I'm pairing this with the prior rumor that the Warriors are they want to either send Kyle Anderson and a first-round pick, or it's going to be Moses Moody and salary cap filler, but no first round pick because of Moses Moody age. No, I'm sorry. Nikola Vucevic is a double-double machine. He's a flawed defensive player, but the Warriors do have Draymond there. The Warriors have Trace Jackson Davis. They have players that they want. That like you want him, right? So no, I get it, and I'm glad that the Warriors have Vooch because Vooch deserves to be on a team that's competing for something. I don't care what the knock is on Vooch by some of the members of the Bulls fan base that always love to give Vooch shit. Vooch is a player that, yes, we know he's not a defender. We knew that when we traded for him. It is what it is, right? But he's a player that at this point in his age, I would not be mad at Nikola Vucevic wanting to go to a team where he can compete for a title. But if you want him, you're going to have to pay. Run those picks. Run me that first round pick. I don't give a damn if it is. It should be Moses Moody, Kyle Anderson, and a first round pick if we're being 100% honest, because Moses Moody isn't some world beater. Moses Moody isn't some player that has this, that's looked at as having this extreme ceiling that he can turn out. Plus, we don't need any more guards. So if you're sending us a guard in exchange for Nikola Vucevic, what the do you think that like, again, this is not a Bulls team that is tanking. And I think that, again, when you pair it with the fact that front offices are waiting on AK to make another stupid trade, but I think also front offices are waiting for the Chicago Bulls, or thinking the Chicago Bulls are going to tank. We're not a team that's looking to tank. So no, we don't want to throw off the balance of a roster even more with getting yet another guard with a guaranteed contract at a time period where we need size. What the hell, right? Now, if the Warriors are coming correct and they're calling on Nikola Vucevic and they are willing to offer a first-round pick in the deal with Moses Moody and whatever else in salary cap filler, great. I still hope that the Chicago Bulls flip Moses Moody to another team and then, whatever they can do there. But we don't need no more guards. We don't. So if you're all you got to offer us is guards for Nikola Vucevic, cool. Run those picks, right? Run those picks. Kevon Looney, run him too, right? And so I hope I'm happy that AK has not pulled the trigger on this deal yet. Now watch. As soon as I post this episode, we're going to get notification that Nikola Vucevic was traded to the Warriors, right? That's just the way things go for me. But I think overall, like, okay, cool. You got him as number one. He's your target. He's your favorite. He's your top candidate right now in trades. If he's your top candidate, pay up like he's a top candidate, meaning you're going to have to run that pick that is likely to be outside the lottery any damn way. Run those picks. A pick in this case, right? And that's the barrier of entry. We're not having conversations if you can't offer that pick. So we'll see what happens. Again, and I've been disenfranchised, disillusioned, whatever you want to call it, with these trade rumors recently because, listen, it seems like people just regurgitate the same shit, but they say it in a different way to make it seem like they have more of a scoop than the last one. But I think overall it just comes down to this. It does not seem like teams are willing to pay fair value. We're not even talking about the value that the Bulls have for these players, but fair value for the Bulls players. You are not about to pick at the carcass that is the Chicago Bulls and just run away with it. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You got to come with something more tangible. And let's hope that gets done. We'll see what happens with the Chicago Bulls. But lastly, before we get out of here, we got an update on Ayo Dosunmu. It looks like he's made the next step up in his rehab. He's running on a treadmill per Billy Donovan. That's really good. Now, the Bulls are playing this very cautious when it comes to Ayo Dosunmu, mainly because of like I said, calf injuries can turn into Achilles things, and you do not want that to happen. The Bulls, by any means necessary, have to avoid this turning into a Achilles type situation for Ayo Dosunmu, because if it does, that's when you start getting into shutting the player down for months, right? Because you do not want to risk having a major injury to that Achilles, because if that happens, and then that even leaves the recovery, even going into the offseason, very tough and difficult. So you don't want that for Ayo Dosunmu. And overall, I think that, Ayo was finding himself. He was starting to get back in rhythm. It was really good to see how the way that Ayo Dosunmu was really starting to come around. He was finding his place. Yeah, he's probably going to have to go back to and be relegated to a bench role again when he comes back. But Ayo Dosunmu was really, really starting to really find his way. And so you want to hope that he can get that back, right? Over the last 10 games that Ayo Dosunmu played, he was averaging 14 points per game. He was doing that on 50% shooting from the field, 38% shooting from three, right? Averaging 6 assists in that time period as well. Over a steal and a half per game, almost a block per game. He was doing really good, right? And he was really starting to find that rhythm that we needed him to have. So Ayo, yes, I want him back on the court because I think he's so important to the defense of the Bulls, but you want him to be healthy. So the Bulls they're gonna take this very, very gingerly, and they're gonna monitor it. They're not gonna push him too far because they do not want that to turn into Achilles type situation. And as long as they can avoid that developing into that, his season should be good. But he's probably gonna miss. They already said 3 days ago at this point is going to be another week before he's reevaluated. That does not mean a return because he can be reevaluated and there could still be some tenderness on that calf. And then at that point, they could wait another week, right? And I think that's what you're possibly going to see. If Ayo's not cleared in that reevaluation week timeline, they're probably going to kick it down another week. They're not going to be like, 3 days, let's see. They're probably going to kick it another week. And so we'll see what happens with that. But getting Ayo Dosunmu back on the court, I know a lot of Bulls fans want to see it. It's unfortunate he was not out there for Derrick Rose night, but you want him to be healthy. Health is the most important factor for this, especially with the type of strain that he has. And let's just hope that he can get back on the court soon, but that he's fully healthy when he does get back on the court. But as always, you guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.